Echoes of War is very difficult to explain in a few short sentences because there's so much going into the project. But simply put, we've just got fantastic music from Blizzard, which is a soundtrack, background music. What we've done is arrange it so that it actually can stand on its own 2 feet. We've basically recorded the whole week, and that is Echoes of War.
I suppose this sort of music can make you feel almost every emotion available to man and beast, because that's its intent, and that's what its job is in a way. It has to do that to fit the visuals, to make you feel things that aren't on the screen or aren't on the game. It puts it in there for you and helps you feel the things that you're supposed to be feeling at any given moment in the movie or the game.
Blizzard has been really fortunate of late to have a number of very distinguished artists and orchestras approaching us asking, can we license to perform your music at our concerts or various things like that, and we've been very excited about that. What was very unique about Emminence is that they wanted to do us the honor of creating an entire album of our music spanning our 3 very well-known IPs, WarCraft, StarCraft, and Diablo. And so the notion of a kind of comprehensive, or at least a volume 1 comprehensive kind of celebration of our music, and taking that music and reimagining it a bit so that it stands alone outside the game as a concert experience or a listening experience was really exciting to us. This is something I wish we had more time to do ourselves.
I had a chance to go to Los Angeles last year, and I went, I got to be there. I got to meet Russell, and I got to talk to him about this, this crazy idea I have, and I hope he actually listens. I don't care if he turns around and say, look, I'm sorry, but this can't happen. I don't care if he goes, look, that's a bad idea. I just need to tell him.
It's a challenge to take the music outside of its traditional role behind the action or supporting the visuals within a game and bring it to the forefront and put it on display so it'll stand alone, so it'll make a satisfying listening experience. But here, a very respected, excellent symphony orchestra wanted to take our music and commission some amazing arrangers to come up with special versions of all our pieces of music and from each of our worlds, and make this album, hopefully do a concert series someday, and that's very exciting.
I think this project is really special because this is easily by far the biggest project of its kind. I mean, there's nobody who has spent so much time, effort and resources to actually get this together of this magnitude. We got people from Japan, we got Russell from the US, we obviously got people from Australia coming together and making this happen?
My flight was great. It was long. It was 3 parts to it, 29 hours total from my front door to here. But we're all safe. It's all good.
Shina-san is a crazy dude and he's really awesome. He's a good friend of mine and he just writes the most fantastic music. Natsumi is an arranger and basically what she did was write most of the orchestral scores for this project, and she also helps me check all the music if it's sounding right and stuff like that.
This is Russell. Hi Phil. It's a pleasure. Nice to meet you too. Great.
Good to be here.
Sumi, how are you?
Fine, thank you.
Hi. Shina-san, how are you?
Preparation is everything. If you're not prepared, you're basically screwed. Like you're really, really screwed.
With such an intense project like this, because we have to record so much music in such a short period of time, therefore preparation again is really about is everything. Need to learn the scores, need to know the scores, and know exactly where you're recording from point A to point B. Everything is all in the planning, because if everything is sort of very ad hoc on the spot, we'll never get the job done.
We really need to be prepared about scheduling, sending out confirmation emails, making sure everybody's happy, and even down to the weirdest thing. I mean, I guess it's not weird because it's every day, but when we're going to have lunch and stuff like that, you can easily, overlook that kind of stuff. So I reckon, we had up to plan A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and then I feel a bit safer then.
I think all projects are hard in some ways, but maybe challenging is a better word, because the role of the music is different here. It's for concert or album presentation. So it's a little different mindset. And when we first met up at the hotel and started going over the scores together, that's something we actually don't get to do so much when we're working on the games, because we're kind of creating it in the moment, and it's very fast-paced. And the musicians may not be as connected to the music as they are in this case. With a project like this, it's really important for the conductor and the arrangers and ultimately the musicians to understand where the music is coming from.
To be honest, I like it, in my opinion, I like it how Illidan's theme isn't there in the first time, but second time, when it grows, can we add it in the front part?
Yeah, sure.
Do you think that's a good idea?
I think that's certainly better than basically not having it, because it develops as a rhythmic bit, but without the melody there. What you've seen us doing in terms of preparation and discussions like that have been mostly about addressing how this is different from simply creating another game soundtrack.
We have to organize, a full symphony orchestra and a choir, a place to play, record with professionals, and it's a lot of organizing and a lot of stress, and it's just really difficult. Yeah.
So those 4 pieces tomorrow. Cool. That's a lot.
Wow.
But it's going to be a blast.
Yeah.
How many minutes is that?
I think that should be.
Is it on your
20?
No, it's not. It's
20 minutes plus. Yeah.
That's a healthy double
That's a
session.
lot of
music.
Considering the complexity of it, I mean, just the first couple we heard really got a lot to them. So great.
Good luck, Bill.
We'll get there.
It's just an absolute joy to be doing music as your daily routine work, because first of all, when you're at work, it doesn't feel like work at all. You think to yourself, I'm just simply going to a rehearsal, or I'm just simply performing tonight. It's not like that, I need to be in the office by 9, sit in front of the computer for 8 hours. It's not like that, and I think I'm very, very lucky, and I'm very grateful that I can have this kind of wonderful feeling every day when I walk into work. there's always this one person standing in front of the band and waving, and I thought, wow, that was the coolest thing ever. And I thought, that guy, you know, he didn't need to speak. He has this thing, a stick that he's holding, and he looks so cool. When he doesn't move, not a sound. When he starts moving, and wow, there it is. The whole band, you know, there are like 60 or 80 people on stage, all because of that one person. I still remember that very first scene, that the composure of the conductor just standing there. And there it is, the sound. And I still say that picture is so clear in my head. And therefore, when I went to uni, I decided I would really love to learn about the craft of how to control such a big force. What do I need to do with my hands, with my eyes, with my body? How do I communicate without saying a thing? Because it is very hard. It is not like sign language where there, this is hush. The way you look at players, or singers for that matter, that will create a very efficient and effective communication, and that's why I decided to become a conductor, to actually try to learn about that craft and try to, I guess, reveal the mysteriousness about a conductor, a maestro.
Yeah, I get really nervous sometimes. There's two kinds of nervousness. There's a good one and a bad one. And a good one is when you're prepared and when you know what you're doing, but it's just excitement that makes you nervous, but you're still in control because you're prepared. A bad one is when you're not prepared. You go maybe out to the scoring stage out cold and you haven't practiced and you have to play, and then you're screwed. It's both exciting and it's daunting at the same time. I think working with this many people leads, there's a high risk of problems and stuff like that, but you just got to do it. If things happen and you weren't prepared for it, then deal with it. Things have to keep moving in this kind of stuff, and if you let it stop, that's it.
This section of the music needs to create this feeling. Because in any given track, there are actually quite different moods throughout. It's not just one same mood throughout from beginning to end. So therefore, how to make those sudden change of moods, I need to do that I need to, first of all, know exactly what I want.
More crescendo here, it seems kind of like the energy seems to taper off.
Sure, of course, yeah.
And this bit is got to be huge. It's like, this is an Illidan bit.
Yeah, I mainly wanted to get real strong down.
So I need to have a very clear picture of the sound that I want, and then try to explain that to the orchestra so we're on the same chapter, rather than if different sections have different ideas, then we'll never have one good product together. So that's most of the preparation work is to try to suss out what's the most efficient way to create the best mood that suits the piece. And of course, with the help of the producers in the booth as well, because sometimes the sound that you hear in the hall is quite different through the speakers. So that's with their help, then we try to work together from people in there and out here and try to get the best job.
No, 16 is fine,
yeah.
but lots of ball. Lots, right now it's like
Yeah.
And we'll go from there.
Yeah.
We got 4 more minutes of break, so after that
4 more minutes? Is that all? Then break it.
Well, get out there and start.
Yeah, I'll
it.
drink my scotch now, and in 4 minutes I'll be
はい
right.
やっていただきます。2小
Okay,
節ずれて
my
ます
eyes are watering.
so-
Get that thing off. I remember the first time I saw a video game was in an arcade at Big Bear Lake, California, and almost every day my parents and I went into this place and had a soda, and I got a few nickels because that's how much it cost back then, and I got to play some pinball machines or skee ball or whatnot. And we became friends with the owner of this arcade, and whenever he got a new game in, he would have us come over and say, come on, check this out. And so I remember the day that Pong arrived, and he said, come over here. You've never seen anything like this. And there it was with the little ball going back and forth and the little bleeps and bloops. And I remember that's when the future was shown to us that day. And I remember playing it again and again and again for the rest of that summer. And later on, the home consoles started appearing, and I had them all. So yes, I do remember.
I started with the violin when I was 6, and we've just moved to Australia. I had to basically learn something, have something in me. Well, that's what my parents said anyway. And they kind of forced the violin on me because my mom's a pianist and I could never ever learn what she kind of teaches. She kind of forced the violin on me, and I started practicing like, a crazy kid. I used to practice when I was 6, I was practicing 3 hours a day. When I was 18, I was practicing 12 hours a day. What do I do at school? Well, I did nothing. I went to school, I studied and everything, but, the violin was everything back then. It was absolutely everything, and I practiced my ass off, and I got pretty high in the classical world. There was something missing in my life. This wasn't destined to be what I was going to become. I felt, there's much more I could do as a musician, not just as a violinist, but as a musician to the rest of the world, and that's what I'm doing now.
Somewhere around 1993 or so, computer games started using actual sound recordings instead of MIDI files, or at least we were starting to hear scores supplemented with actual recordings. I think this was even before MP3s were popular, but they were low res and scratchy and tiny sounding, but they were recordings of real performances on synthesizers probably, but it wasn't just general MIDI anymore. And I started thinking, this is getting interesting again. Games are starting to sound compelling as a genre for writing music. And of course, I love the technology, always have.
I love the feeling. Like, when we do concerts with the orchestra, I'm usually the concert master. And that means, we line up in a table at the end of the concert and we give autographs. That's really the only time they could really communicate. It could be a few short words like, well done, I loved it, stuff like that. But when somebody actually tells me, this was the first time I've been to a symphony orchestra concert and that was fantastic, I go, that's what I wanted. This is exactly what I was aiming for. Getting people who's never heard of this kind of music, and and we just gave them a good reason to go, and we also gave them a good reason to come back. We didn't really just spend all our lifetime practicing so we could just play to just older generation of people, the golden age, so to speak. We wanted everybody to enjoy it. Everybody, not just in Australia, but the rest of the world.
I was able to record music using traditional methods. I had a multi-track tape recorder and synthesizers, And I just went to town, and I was able to layer stuff and make music that sounded like music you'd hear from other sources, but it was in a video game. So I feel like that was a really golden opportunity to pioneer some of that. But again, around 93, when I started hearing video games that you could purchase and take home have this kind of handcrafted music. It wasn't MIDI, it was actually layered and recorded in using traditional recording methods. I got very excited, and absolutely I wanted to write for that type of music.
When I was first approached to take on this project, my first impression was, what? We're doing a release of CD of games music? Games music? What is games music?
No, I went for the idea because I've heard and recorded and performed a lot of music for video games, and it was no surprise to me that the music for video games in many ways is much similar to feature film music. It's big production, big budget, and over-the-top sort of scoring, and I appreciate that. I enjoy that. So it wasn't difficult for me to accept the job.
Then I start to receive some music in front of me. And I've also received some footages about the games. I combine the two and go, wow, this was nothing what I had in mind.
It's really gratifying to see how far games have come, because my original love of film score and some television, and I worked a lot in animation in my television years, where there was so much freedom of the story and expression and the sound design, and it all kind of comes together in games, and throw in the technology, which I've always been a fan of because of my love of synthesizers, which started really young, and I built my own when I was a kid, and still have it and play it to this day, and I'm building another one now. It's like knitting for me. It all kind of comes together in video games.
I think this kind of music is important to any sort of visual production, because myself included, I don't always hear the music when I'm going to a movie. I don't play video games, but I get absorbed in the movie as most young people would get absorbed in the game, and you hear the music subliminally. So to hear the music taken out of context and played live or put on a CD or a record, it brings a new audience to that music, and it'll keep that music going for that kind of function for years and years and years. Makes it important to people.
We flew from Sydney to Japan and picked up some arrangers, and basically we're here at Blizzard headquarters in California to talk about how we're going to make Echoes of War sound really good.
The tempo part you're talking about is in 7?
A lot of the staff here at Blizzard is very happy to and very excited to be involved in this project, and so are we, and arrangers is excited to see all these many of them synthesized music turn into a real live musical experience in Echoes of War.
One of my favorite pieces I've composed for Blizzard is, it goes by the name of Brood War Aria. It's in the Brood War opening cinematic. There's a scene on a battle cruiser with Admiral Dugal and his subordinate Stukov, I think is his name. Anyway, they're having a conversation, and there's some classical music playing on a record player in the background, and it's an operatic singer with a small orchestra, and the idea was for it to have a pretty stark contrast between this peaceful music on the bridge and the horrible action, the Zerg invasion happening on the planet surface.
So, Gerard, I suspect you have a good reason for pulling me away from my duties.
Your vodka can wait, my good Alexei. Come, stand here. You need to see this.
I know all about the Zerg, Gerard.
So you hear this nice music, and I was very much inspired by, I think, 1930s, 1920s and 30s influences in some of the harmony. That's, I think, is my favorite piece, even though it's a simple and fairly short. Someday I'd like to hear that live. It looks like we'll have the opportunity to do that. So I'm also honored again to have that one played. There's nothing better than the real thing. I think the live players bring all that expression and emotion to it that, you know, you try to put into it when you're doing the digital recording, but the better players make a better performance, make a better sound. So I'm very excited, very honored that it's being played. So thank you.
So it's been quite an honor to see this come together and hear what the imaginations of these arrangers have brought to the music that I'm very intimately familiar with the original versions, and it's so fun to hear the music take a few left turns and go to some unexpected places. Hearing how someone else has put the music into a new context is really a lot of fun, and it brings back all the right memories, it pulls all the right triggers and presses the emotional buttons for the people who remember hearing these pieces in the games.
そうですね、ブリザードの方々はあれなんだろう、休日みたいな感じがするぐらい結構明るくて陽気な人がいっぱいいたので、すごく楽しく打ち合わせもできたし、時間が過ぎるのもあっという間でした。お菓子もいっぱいくれたし。
When I first heard Emminence was doing this kind of project, I was very excited, very flattered. The more this music gets out, the better.
ディレクさんはそうですね、曲を聴いた時のイメージと会った時のイメージがだいぶ違かったですね。もっとなんていうんですか、鼻にこうピアスをしたりとか耳にピアスをしたりとかしてる方かななんて思ってたんですけど、実際はものすごく紳士でしたね。可愛らしいダンディーな方でした。
When they showed up and Goshenah was with him, and I was made aware that he was in fact arranging my piece, that was just tremendous. I'm a big fan of his, of all his music for games, and to get to meet him was exciting enough, and then to have him do the arrangement of my piece was even more exciting.
ディレクさんの曲を聴いた時に一番初めに思ったのは、すごくいろんな要素が細かく入ってて、それがものすごくいいバランスで宇宙的な雰囲気が出てたので、正直これアレンジするのは大変だなっていうのは、なんていうんでしょうかね、もうこれ以上はないんだろうなと思ったので、結構難しい仕事だなと思いました、初めに。
The highlight of the meeting with Blizzard was basically I met this person called Evelyn. She was in charge of the lore and story and stuff like that for WarCraft, StarCraft and Diablo. And basically we decided together what we should name all the music.
Hey, what's that? Hold on a minute a second.
We had some crazy ideas. We were on the same page, basically. We said something like, I really want to name the Terran music, I Love You, Sarge.
It's a Zerglin, Lester. Smaller type of Zerg. They even be out this far unless... Oh, shit. I love you, Sarge.
But, it kind of doesn't work in context to what we're doing. And also something like, you know, the Zerg Symphony, we basically named it Eradicate and Evolve because that was basically what Zergs are. They just basically kill everything and then evolve to make themselves better. But, you know, we kind of wanted to name it I'm the queen bitch of the universe, but that can get, you know, a bit dicey. So, you know, stuff like that. And it was really awesome because we get to be true to the game, and that's what we wanted.
So what we have been recording this week is a 75-piece orchestra. It consists of 10, 8, 6, 6, 8 violins, violas, cellos, double basses. We've also got woodwinds, trumpets, trombones, we've got timpanis, all sorts of percussion. A lot of tracks to deal with. I mean, but it's fun. It actually really gets the mind rolling when there's so much going on. In the end, with all the synth tracks and all the backings and the drums and the whole orchestra, up to 150, 200 tracks by the end.
It's really difficult. If you know anything about soundtrack recording, we do everything to click, and you know, everything is kind of like, you know, in bits and parts and stuff. And you know, when we first play, it doesn't really make sense, but they make it make sense by editing it later and stuff like that. But in Echoes of War, what we're doing is we're getting a soundtrack that already exists, and then we're modifying it so that it is actually a performable piece on its own right. I was wondering if you can get a 12-string guitar, but
So the flurry of activity right now is to find a 12-string guitar in Sydney, Australia, and on short notice yet. So some folks brought in a digitally modeled version of a 12-string, and it was close, but worth waiting for the real thing. So they're working out the parts now, and while that's going on, someone is supposedly arriving with a 12-string. Well, it appears that the part was notated for acoustic guitar, and it didn't specify acoustic 12-string guitar. And as it happens for me, my introduction to Blizzard games was the original Diablo. And when I first heard the now very iconic guitar chords on a 12-string through the digital delay effect, it made quite an impression on me, because it wasn't the expected choice for this genre of game. It was quite daring, actually, but it worked really well.
This is a 12-string replicator.
All right.
Russell, do you think this...
I don't know. I'd like him, when he's done tuning or whatever, I'd like to hear what he...
Can you just play like the pace?
Play the A2
Is that close enough?
If you get the delay going, you're probably okay. Yeah, I'd brighten it up a little bit.
It's pretty, not a bad sound for an electric, is it? It's model 12-string sound.
Yeah, it doesn't suck. In doing any sort of homage to the music, it ought to be right. And I think if this project didn't include the accurate instrument, we'd probably hear about it.
When we can get the 12.
I mean, work out the part, and then by the time the 12-string gets here, if we want to replace it, we can replace it. But work out, because you got some, you're going to like...
not available for another half an hour.
Yeah, that's right.
That's what I'm saying.
Do it with this.
I'm saying work out the part, put it down, you got to fall back. Because, you know, what if the thing doesn't show up? You know, and you got to work out the part a little bit, right?
Let me just figure out how to connect it.
Generally, the sort of thing we go for is 10 minutes of music per 3-hour call, and that's generally what we go for. And if you try and push that, you'll either strain the musicians or you won't get the right takes, that sort of thing. So you always try and aim for 10. But you know, this is where we're at today, and we'll see how we go. And you know, if we have to book more time, we will.
I've worked on a lot of films, movie scores, and recordings, and live concerts, theater productions, almost every kind of music you can imagine. I've enjoyed all those different kinds of music, and I enjoyed changing my approach to things a lot. So I've tried everything, I think. I've been doing it all my life, probably 60 years professionally. So I've been around the traps a bit. Right, I was asked to work on an overture piece for this recording project. They had snippets of various bits of music lying around, and they wanted to put into a form that would make sense as a listening piece, a concert piece, if possible. So I took all these little snippets and molded them into one overture sort of piece. I was in the studio for the recording of this overture, although I missed the beginning of it. I haven't heard the whole overture yet. And I was just in there listening, sort of almost in a technical capacity, to make sure everything was going down the way I wrote it. And I was very pleased with the results. They did a very good job, both the musicians and the recording engineers and so on.
One of our challenges this week has been working in a foreign language, where this is a Japanese project. So, you know, we have our difficulties occasionally in getting our views across or getting interpretations across. But ultimately, music is a universal language, and, you know, we'll figure it out.
One more time.
今回のブリザードさんの、オーケストラのアレンジをするときに一番こう迷った点っていうのは、割とそのいろんなその民族的なフィーリングを表現していただきたいなと思って、結構いろいろなところで結構難しいことをお願いしたんですけども、やっていただけてすごくこう嬉しかったです。全体的にそのリズミカルな部分とかリズムがものすごくタイトな部分が多かったので、そういう意味では大変な曲だったんだろうなっていうのがすごく思います。今謝らせていただいた方がいいのかななんて思ってます。
We started this morning at 8:15 and last night we finished at around about midnight, a bit after midnight, so feeling alright actually. And we're actually now on the halfway through the third day. We're up to take 510, so we always do it simultaneously, so yeah, we're getting there.
Alright, at the key change, a lot of people couldn't adapt, and there was a lot of intonation mishaps. So
sure, we can cut this into two sections. We can just do up until 78 and then cut from there.
Well, it's not hard at all.
Well, that way we can guarantee a clean change that you want.
Mr. sitting in the booth.
Yep. So, would you like
I can do it.
Sorry, Phil, we got a pitching issue at 30. Let's just do the whole thing again. I'm sorry.
Oh, can we go for 59 first? We've just tuned that.
Yeah, all right. Yeah, we can do that.
2 into 59.
2059.
With recording sessions like this, it can be very intense, and it drains a lot out of everyone. And therefore, as a conductor or as the leader trying to lead all the sessions, it's very important to think of a way to keep all the morale up all the time, because it is understanding why the players get very tired easily, because we are doing everything in small chunks, and then you probably do it at least 5-6 times, and it becomes repetitive, and you're trying to say something, you might be asking for exactly the same thing, but you need to try to think of a way that sounds a little bit different, try to inspire and get people to keep interested for the entire session. Otherwise, it will get very boring and the result won't be exciting. And of course, we get frustrated as well, because sometimes you think, that last take was perfect, but it could be just someone turning a page too loudly and we couldn't use it. And those times you just go, frustration, of course. And this is not just from me, but you can feel the entire room, that kind of, the feeling just sank.
Well, I think we've got 2 of them from the other takes. Can you just make sure they're happy with that? Yeah, I dropped out. I ran out of breath. But I think we have it from the other takes, hopefully.
And you just try and go, oh no, we have to do it again. Of course, it's frustrating, but unfortunately, maybe I will show it for a second, but then straight away, I have to go, no problem, let's do another one. Let's do another one. That was so good. I'm only human, and it's not possible to be 24/7, to be like high and be on high, and because frustration does come to you, and you get frustrated, annoyed, and you just want to let go. Otherwise, I'll go crazy if I trying to force myself to be happy, because natural feelings are natural feelings.
Well, we're all here for long hours, and it's been a whole week. People start to lose concentration. They start to feel, really tired, not just, physically, but mentally. And when people get to that kind of stage, it kind of basically, people break down, and when people lose concentration, they start to lose focus. And when they lose focus, they kind of forget the purpose of what we are doing. And that's when I have to come in and basically say, come on, guys, we can't be like this. This can't happen, There's so many people who just spent hours, no, not hours, like months, years trying to get this thing done. And yes, I just had to remind them and keep them in line. It just had to be done. I had to be the bad cop. Some people are starting to sleep. Tell them to please wake up, because, that's a freaking F. How could you not even hit that? That's like first grade stuff. Say it nicely, Spirit.
That's called negative reinforcement.
Start together. That's what I'm going to say. Start together. Thanks.
The hours are long anyway. I think this kind of work, creative work in context with even larger bodies of creative work, it's a 24/7 full body contact sport, and you gotta love it. You gotta love it, and you gotta want to do it with all your heart. It's gotta be burning a hole in your belly, or else you won't be bringing it as much as you might think you are. You need to have a sense of devotion to it, which is a little hard to describe. You'll know it when you're doing it, because the fact that you're so tired really doesn't matter. It can be a challenge to balance one's life in situations like this, but at the end, if you've created a world, or helped create a world, and an immersive environment, and inspired your players, and maybe some young folks interested in music, it's definitely, it's all worth it, and I think you forget about the hours spent eventually.
Okay, here we go. Take 600. Take 600.
All right, Phil. That's it for the recording.
Thank you very much. Thank
Now
you.
for the mix.
Thank you. Well done.
Let's go.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Very good.
Well, I'm leading this group. I have done a lot of leading, of course, you know, over the last 100 years or so. But yeah, it's nice to be in front of this because they're very good players. And we have good jokes, so that keeps the party going.
Classical music is just basically been forgotten about by, you know, modern generation. It's been taken over by pop culture. But, you know, when you expose them to classical music through something like video games, it's sort of forcing them to listen to it, which is a good thing.
The music is really quite melodic, and it's much more enjoyable than most film sessions.
I think it's really interesting working with Emminence because they're really sort of bridging that gap between the older generation and the younger generation now, and you know, being able to present this music to such a wide audience is fantastic, and it's great to be involved in the project.
I have a good time. I play all these games, so it's really cool. I listen to them, you know, as I play them, so it's cool to be able to perform them. Definitely.
What we would like to achieve here is to actually introduce this symphonic sound, a music created by humans, that all the playings, every single note has meaning, has emotion into it, that machines simply cannot produce. And hopefully through this kind of genre that they're very, this environment that they're very comfortable with and familiar with, that we can draw them into this new aspect that they might not have focused on. And we're trying to, through this project, bring the music to the front and highlight another very, very important element of games.
I'd be delighted if younger people would listen to this kind of music and get into it more and more over the years. That would please me very much. So
it's an honor to think that this might be happening for another generation through video games, and I might have had something to do with that. It's certainly not what drives us, but it's so rewarding. I think in the long run, that's some of the most highest sense of reward and accomplishment comes from that.
If I can make one extra person loves music or have the willingness to buy a ticket into a concert hall, I'm a happy man.
It's an art form, really, and you know, it's something that people neglect a lot, and we need people to listen to it, and it's a vehicle. Echoes of Orchestra is a vehicle to basically convince them that music is something that they shouldn't disregard like that.